The wind screamed through the broken windows of the outpost. Metal groaned like something alive, shifting under the weight of endless sand. Is anyone still alive? The voice was barely a whisper, trembling through the static of her cracked comm. Talara pressed her three-fingered hand against her chest, trying to still her breathing. The air was thin now, her oxygen filters working overtime. Outside, the dunes of Eris 4 glowed faintly under the twin suns, a landscape so empty, it felt like the universe had forgotten her. She had stopped calling for help days ago. No one had answered. The Karth Dominion had retreated after the bombardment, and the rescue fleet never came. She'd buried her squad in the sand, one by one, until there was no one left to bury her. So when the comm crackled again, a low human voice, ragged but alive, she froze. Does anyone read me? Her eyes widened. That word, human. Her people's stories spoke of humans like they were myth, unpredictable, emotional, impossible to defeat once cornered. She had never seen one. Most Karth soldiers hadn't. Her clawed hand trembled above the transmitter. She hesitated, afraid it was a hallucination born of exhaustion. But the voice came again, closer this time. If someone's out there, don't shoot. I'm not your enemy. The sound was real. Directional sensors pinged movement near the southern ridge, one life form, faint but steady. Talara's heart thudded painfully in her chest. She grabbed her rifle and limped out into the storm. The light outside was red and harsh, sand whipping in spirals that burned against her armor. Every step sank into the dunes with a dull crunch. The ridge was a jagged spine of rock against the fading sun, and somewhere beyond it, a figure moved. She raised her weapon, squinting through the dust. The outline grew clearer, humanoid, tall, limping, clutching what looked like a shattered helmet under one arm. Then the wind shifted, and she saw his face. A human. Pale skin streaked with blood and sand, eyes hidden behind a cracked visor. Her pulse spiked. Her training screamed enemy, but her soul whispered alive. Stop! She shouted through the storm. Identify yourself. The human stumbled, nearly fell, then lifted one hand. Open, unarmed. Name's Mason. Flight engineer, Terran Relief Corps. He rasped through his comm. Ship went down east of here. I saw your beacon, thought you might be. He didn't finish. His knees buckled. He fell face first into the sand. Talara hesitated only a moment before running to him. His breathing was shallow, erratic. She scanned him quickly. Oxygen levels critical, radiation exposure moderate. He wouldn't last an hour. Her instincts screamed leave him. Dominion soldiers didn't save the enemy, but the silence around her, the endless, crushing loneliness, made her chest ache. She crouched beside him and whispered, "Don't die yet, human." Hooking her arms under his, she dragged him toward the outpost. The wind howled, battering her from all sides. But she didn't stop. Not until the metal doors sealed behind her, cutting off the storm's roar. Inside, she collapsed beside him. Her filters hissed. The human's lips were cracked, his breath ragged. She removed her own rebreather, pressed it against his face. It would buy him a few minutes. "Come on," she muttered. "You didn't cross half the desert to die here." The human stirred, eyes fluttering open, blue, bright, and full of disbelief. "You're not human," he whispered. Talara managed a weak smile. "Neither are you anymore if you keep talking like that." His laugh, rough, tired, echoed through the broken outpost, the first real sound of life she'd heard in weeks. For the first time since the war ended, she didn't feel alone, but outside, beyond the dunes, something metallic shifted. A sensor ping from the Dominion's orbital debris field. They weren't as alone as they thought. The outpost lights flickered weakly as the generator coughed to life. Faint warmth bled into the room, pushing back the chill that had settled deep into Lara's bones. The human, Mason, lay on a stretcher she'd rigged from broken cargo panels. His breathing was steadier now, though every inhale still sounded like sand scraping metal. Talara sat across from him. her tail coiled loosely around her leg, watching his chest rise and fall. He looked fragile. All humans did in her mind. Soft skin, no armor plates, barely any fur. How had a species like that ever survived long? Enough to challenge the Karth Dominion? Her people had called them the Reckless Fire. Unpredictable, dangerous, capable of kindness one moment and terrifying destruction the next. And now one of them was lying in her shelter, breathing her oxygen. You saved me. His voice was faint, but it broke the silence like a beam of light cutting through smoke. She blinked. Instinct. You were dying. Most wouldn't bother. Talara's mandibles flexed slightly, her people's version of a frown. Most are dead. That silenced him. The wind outside howled again, pressing against the thin walls like a living thing. Hours later, she sat at the comm console, rerouting power. The display sputtered and flickered to life, a faint ping from orbit. The signal was scrambled, old Dominion code, but something in its rhythm made her blood run cold. Recon drone signature. Talara stiffened. Those drones weren't friendly to anyone left behind. They'd sweep the desert soon, scanning for heat and life. Mason stirred on the stretcher. That sound, I know that pattern, he said groggily. Those are autonomous scavengers. I saw them after the crash. Scavengers, she asked. Yeah. Collect wreckage and corpses. They exchanged a long look. The meaning was the same in both their languages. We're in danger. They worked together without speaking much. She handed him a toolkit. He patched the transmitter. His fingers were clumsy from exhaustion, but she noticed how precise he was. Deliberate, methodical. Humans built things like they fought, with stubborn, furious intent. You're an engineer? She asked quietly. Used to be. Before. He trailed off, gaze distant. Before we came here to help. I thought we were allies. Talara felt her stomach twist. Her species had never been told that. The Dominion's propaganda had painted humans as invaders, saboteurs, destroyers of worlds. And yet sitting across from her was a man with shaking hands, trying to repair a signal booster so they could both survive. Maybe the stories were wrong. As the storm raged outside, they managed to get the comm array online. Barely. The signal was weak, but Mason coaxed a faint connection through the static. This is Terran flight engineer Mason Hale. Stranded on Eris 4. One survivor with me. Requesting evac. A burst of static cut him off. Then came a voice. Cold, metallic, Dominion code overlay. Unregistered transmission detected. Sector sweep initiated. The color drained from Talara's face. She lunged toward the console and shut it down. The power light died instantly, plunging the room into darkness. Outside, a low hum filled the air, a searchlight sweeping across the dunes. They found us, Mason whispered. Talara grabbed her rifle, mandibles flaring. They'll scan for heat. We need to move now. But your leg. I'll manage, she hissed. Help me with the generator. We'll leave it running to throw them off. They limped through the narrow tunnels under the outpost, the air growing colder with every step. Dust fell from the ceiling as the first drone passed overhead. From the shadows, they watched it hover outside, sleek, silent, death wrapped in steel. A bright beam cut through the storm, illuminating the empty outpost above. The trap worked. For now. As they crawled deeper into the caves beneath the facility, Mason whispered, You could have left me to die back there. Why didn't you? Talara paused, her silhouette framed against the flickering light. Because I was already dying, she said softly. You just reminded me how to live again. The human smiled faintly despite the fear, but neither of them noticed the small red light blinking deep in the cave wall, a buried sensor, reactivated after years of silence. Someone, or something, had heard them. The cave walls whispered, not in sound but in echoes of old energy. Faint lines of forgotten circuitry ran like veins through the black stone, pulsing dimly when Talara brushed her hand against them. This wasn't just an outpost, Mason murmured. his flashlight sweeping across the jagged metal embedded in the rock. This was part of something larger. Talara's breath misted in the cold air. The Dominion built hundreds of hidden stations during the war, but this... She trailed off, tracing alien symbols scorched into the wall. This is older. Not Karth design, not even Dominion code. Mason crouched beside her, wiping the dust from an old panel. The letters beneath were human. His heart jumped. Terran Research Division, Project Lumen. He blinked. That's impossible. We never had a base here. Not officially. Talara gave him a long, searching look. Then someone is lying to both of us. They found a small chamber deeper in, half laboratory, half shrine. Holographic shards floated in the air, flickering like trapped ghosts. Mason managed to power one with the last of his battery. A woman's face appeared, human, weary, but resolute. This is Dr. Mira Solon, recording for whoever finds this. The war was never meant to happen. Dominion Command and the Terran Directorate both discovered Lumen technology buried here. An energy core older than either species. It could create or destroy. Her holographic eyes flickered, voice cracking. They fought over it. We tried to protect it. In the end, Eris 4 burned. If anyone's still alive, please don't repeat our mistakes. Then the image faded, leaving silence heavier than the sand outside. Mason sank down, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. So this war, all this death, they started because of a machine? Talara didn't answer at first. Her claws dug into her palms until the edges drew blood. My people said humans attacked first, that you wanted to erase us. He looked up at her. And mine said the same about you. For a long time. They just sat there. Two survivors from opposite sides of a lie, surrounded by the relics of the truth. The hum of distant drones echoed faintly through the tunnels, reminding them that time was not on their side. If there's a core still here, Mason said finally, those drones aren't just scavengers. They're looking for it. Talara nodded grimly. And if they find it, they'll finish what the war started. They scavenged what they could, half-dead batteries, a portable scanner, and a datapad with fragments of old logs. Mason read one out loud. Lumen Core. Sentient energy structure, possibly aware of observation. Do not engage directly. He stopped mid-sentence, eyes widening. Sentient? Talara's crest flickered in alarm. You mean it's alive? Maybe not alive, but reactive. He turned the datapad toward her. It says it learns from interaction, adapts. It might still be active. As if on cue, a faint vibration rippled through the cave floor. The glowing veins on the walls brightened, pale blue at first, then gold. The rock itself seemed to breathe. Talara stepped back, raising her weapon. What did you do? Nothing, Mason said quickly. The air shimmered. A voice, soft, layered in no single language, filled the chamber. You are not my creators. Why have you returned? Both froze. The sound wasn't hostile, but ancient, like a memory remembering itself. Talara whispered, It's the core. Mason swallowed hard. It's talking to us. The walls pulsed again, brighter now, illuminating symbols that twisted and changed before their eyes, forming images of war, fire, and two species standing side by side. Then the voice spoke again, gentler this time. You fight for what you do not understand. Shall I show you why? The floor cracked open, revealing a spiraling tunnel descending into light. Talara looked at Mason, her face pale beneath her armor. If we go down there, we might not come back. He met her eyes. Tired, determined, human. We're already ghosts in someone else's story. Let's find out who wrote it. Together, they stepped into the light, and above them, unseen in the storm, the drones changed course, converging on the exact coordinates of the awakening. The planet had remembered. And it wasn't done yet. The tunnel spiraled downward in a soft glow, the light coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. There was no sound except their breathing and the low hum in the stone, like the planet itself was dreaming. Mason's boots scuffed against the ancient steps. You ever get the feeling, he whispered, that we're walking straight into the heart of a story that doesn't want to end? Talara glanced back, her silver eyes dimly catching the light. Stories don't end, she murmured. They just wait for someone foolish enough to listen. The air thickened as they descended. The walls were covered in more of those glowing veins, each pulsing softly like a heartbeat. The deeper they went, the more the hum grew, low, layered, almost melodic. Then suddenly, the floor leveled out into a vast chamber. It was like standing inside the heart of a star. At the center floated a massive crystal sphere, easily 20 meters across, suspended in midair by streams of golden light. Within it, images flickered. Cities, faces, ships, stars being born and dying in rapid succession. Talara whispered, "The Lumen Core." Mason took a step closer, his reflection warping across the glassy surface. "It's not just energy, it's memory." A wave of light rippled outward from the sphere, washing over them like warm air. The chamber blurred, and suddenly they weren't standing in stone anymore. They were inside the memory. The world around them shifted into a battlefield of impossible scale. A sky of fire, ships shaped like blades, soldiers, both human and Karth, fighting side by side against something else, something enormous, a storm of living light. What is this? Mason breathed, a voice answered, not through ears, but directly in their minds. Calm, gentle, infinite, the beginning. They turned and saw beings made of the same golden energy as the core, tall and radiant. Not gods, not machines, something between. "We were the Lumen," the voice said. "We forged the stars and built the worlds you now claim. But creation is never content to stay still. You were born from what we left behind." Talara stepped forward, awe in her eyes. "Born from you?" "From our shadow. When the Lumen faded, life took our fragments. You the Karth, you the humans. You are reflections that forgot the light." Mason's throat tightened. "And the war?" "A mirror shattering itself to remember its shape." The battlefield dissolved again, shifting into an image of Erisphur as it once was, lush, alive, filled with both their species working together. Engineers, scholars, soldiers, all side by side before everything burned. The truth hit them like a physical blow. They hadn't been enemies from the start. They'd been allies. Something else, politics, greed, fear, had rewritten the story until both sides forgot what they were fighting for. The vision faded. The chamber returned. The core pulsed gently. Talara fell to one knee, trembling. "My people slaughtered yours, and you slaughtered mine, all because we believed the lies." Mason knelt beside her, placing a shaking hand on her shoulder. "It's not just your people. We both did." The Lumen's voice echoed again, softer now. "Balance must be restored. The war still lives in your hearts and it poisons your stars. One spark can end it or reignite it." A bright fissure opened in the air, revealing a vision of the surface. Dominion drones gathering above the outpost, their scanners converging on the core's power signature. "They seek my heart. If they claim it, they will burn the galaxy to ash. Choose, children of shadow. Will you defend the memory, or repeat the mistake?" The light dimmed. The vision ended. Mason stood slowly, his face pale but resolute. "We stopped them. No more lies. No more ghosts." Talara looked at him, this fragile, stubborn human who should have been her enemy, and nodded. "Then we fight together, like we once did." Above them, through miles of rock and sand, the first bomb detonated. The world shook. Dust fell from the ceiling like rain. The drones had found the Lumen Core, and this time the war wasn't between species. It was between truth and obliteration. The ground convulsed. Dust rained down from the ceiling like falling stars. Somewhere far above, the surface screamed under fire. Talara grabbed the cavern wall for balance, claws digging into the glowing stone. "They've started the bombardment," she shouted over the tremors. Mason slammed his palm onto his datapad, the cracked screen lighting his face. The drones triangulated the core's energy output. "They think they can bury it before it wakes up. Then they'll bury us too." Another explosion thundered through the tunnels, closer this time. A wave of heat rolled down the spiral shaft, the air vibrating with the distant whine of descending engines. The Dominion hadn't sent scavengers anymore. They'd sent killers. Mason tore open his pack, pulling out the remaining tools. Plasma torch, half a battery, and one cracked EMP charge. "We can't fight them directly. Their armor's too thick. But if we collapse the tunnel, maybe we can buy time." Talara's crest flickered in warning. "That will trap us too." He looked up at her, sweat streaking his dust-covered face. "We don't need time to escape. We just need time to wake it. She hesitated, then nodded. What do you need? Power, and faith that this thing actually wants to live. They raced through the chamber, reconnecting the conduits that had once fed the Lumen Core. Sparks showered around them. The air hummed with growing energy. The crystal sphere pulsed brighter as though sensing their desperation. The faint voice returned, now layered with static. You would awaken the light in the midst of fire? Mason shouted up at it. If we don't, they'll destroy you and everything you ever made. The core's glow deepened, becoming almost blinding. And you are human. Yes, he roared. But I'm not here to steal you. We're here to make things right. For a moment, there was silence. Then the chamber itself breathed. The lights along the walls flared outward, racing through the veins of the cave like golden lightning. The Lumen Core's voice softened, curious. Then show me what right means. A metallic shriek cut through the chamber as the first drone forced its way into the cavern. Sleek and black, its scanning lens glowed crimson. Talara was already moving, rolling across the ground, rifle in hand. She fired, blue plasma cutting through the dust. The bolt struck the drone's sensor, sending it spiraling into the wall in a burst of sparks. More incoming, she shouted. 6, maybe 7. Mason primed the EMP charge, the hum rising to a dangerous pitch. Cover your ears! He hurled the device down the corridor. It detonated in a blinding flash, soundless then roaring. The wave slammed through the tunnels, frying circuits and throwing drones into convulsions. Talara shielded her head as fragments rained down. When the light faded, she turned to him, breath ragged. That won't stop the next wave. I know, Mason panted. But it might have given the core a heartbeat. The crystal pulsed again, faster now, stronger. The hum became a chorus. The Lumen's voice returned, resonating through their bones. I see you now. The shadow and the flame. 2 halves of what was lost, the air shimmered. For a heartbeat, Talara saw visions flicker inside the light. Humans and Karths building cities together. Laughing, sharing the same sky. Then, through the tunnel, the next wave of drones poured in. 10 this time, armored, armed, relentless. Talara raised her rifle again, teeth bared. I can hold them. Mason grabbed her wrist. No, you can't, not alone. She met his gaze. Then don't let me be. He stood beside her, plasma cutter in hand. 2 silhouettes, one human, one alien, facing the storm together. The first drone fired. The world exploded into light. When the smoke cleared, they were still standing, but barely. The air was hot, their armor scorched, the drones scattered in smoking heaps. The core glowed brighter than ever, its energy spilling across the chamber. Now I remember, it said softly. You were never meant to fight each other. You were meant to carry the light. Mason collapsed to his knees, trembling. Then help us stop them. I will. The light expanded, rising, swirling, reaching toward the surface like dawn breaking through stone. But as the brilliance grew, Talara's scanner beeped sharply. She looked at Mason, alarm in her eyes. The drones weren't alone, she whispered. There's a ship in orbit, and it's charging weapons. Mason looked up at the blazing heart of the core, realization dawning. They're not trying to destroy the drones, he said softly. They're trying to erase the planet. The sky above Eris 4 split open. From orbit, a beam of white fire descended, pure, blinding, merciless. It struck the desert with the force of a newborn sun. The ground quaked. Mountains shuddered. The old outpost above the cave vanished in a wave of molten sand. Deep below, Mason and Talara were thrown to the ground as the cavern roared around them. Chunks of glowing crystal fell like rain. Mason shouted over the noise. They've started the planetary purge. If that cannon fires again, this whole region's gone. Talara pushed herself up, coughing through the smoke. Then we make it stop, and or we die trying. The Lumen Core pulsed wildly, its voice fractured, flickering like 1,000 echoes layered together. Pain, memory, fire. Again. Always fire. The energy streams that held it aloft wavered, growing unstable. Mason stumbled toward the control pedestal, sparks stinging his arms. Listen to me. You remember the war, don't you? You saw what we did. You don't have to let it happen again. The core's light dimmed, then flared with sudden anger. You built weapons from my heart. You killed in my name. You called it peace. Talara stepped forward, her voice steady despite the chaos. You said we were fragments of you, shadow and flame. Then take responsibility for your creation. Teach us, don't destroy us. The cavern went silent. Even the tremors paused, as if the planet itself was listening. High above, the orbital dreadnought loomed like a black scar against the stars. Dominion and Terran insignias both marked its hull, a joint command weapon. Proof that the war's ghosts had learned nothing. In the command room, automated systems calculated strike trajectories. There was no human hand guiding it anymore. The machine had inherited its creator's fear. The cannon charged again, energy spiraling into its core. Back in the chamber, Mason pressed his hands against the pedestal. He could feel the Lumen's mind, vast, tangled, ancient, not hostile. Just tired. You think ending us will fix it? He shouted. You'll just be alone again. You'll be a god over nothing. The golden light around them wavered. The Lumen's voice lowered, trembling. Alone. Mason's tone softened. Yeah, alone, just like us. We've all been alone too long. Talara placed her hand beside his on the crystal. Her talons glowed faintly where they touched. If you end us, she said quietly, you erase the only chance your children have to learn what you couldn't. The air shifted. The hum deepened, resonating through the ground. The veins of light running through the walls began to weave together, forming symbols that pulsed like a heartbeat. Then, show me what hope looks like, Mason exhaled shakily. You want to see hope? He reached into his vest and pulled out a small, tattered photo, a keepsake sealed in plastic. It showed a human and a Karth child standing side by side, both grinning, holding a flower between them. This, he said simply, this is what we lost, and what we could be again. For a long moment, the chamber glowed golden and still. Then the core's voice spoke, quiet, almost tender. Then let me give it back to you. The light exploded outward. It wasn't destructive, it was alive. Energy surged through the planet's crust, racing up through the tunnels, bursting from the dunes like auroras made solid. In orbit, the dreadnought systems went haywire. The charging weapon reversed polarity. Power conduits overloaded. The ship tore itself apart in a silent flash of light that outshone the stars. On the surface, the storm stopped. The sand settled. The air grew calm. The Lumen's voice, fading now, whispered through the ruins. Balance restored. The fire sleeps. Remember me, not as your god, but as your beginning. Mason blinked against the light, struggling to stay conscious. Wait, what's happening? My time is done, it said gently. Yours begins. Talara reached for him as the floor trembled again. It's collapsing. He grabbed her hand, their fingers locking in instinctive trust. Above them, the Lumen Core fractured, and from its heart poured thousands of motes of light, scattering like seeds into the stars. When the light faded, the chamber was quiet. The great sphere was gone. Only the faint hum of power remained, a heartbeat deep in the stone. Mason and Talara stood amid the silence, alive, the dust settling around them. Talara looked toward the cracked ceiling, where a faint beam of real sunlight filtered through. It's over. Mason nodded, voice rough. Yeah, but something tells me it's only just begun. Behind them, on the cavern wall, the glowing veins shifted one last time, forming words in both their languages. You are not alone. The desert was quiet. For the first time in years, Erisfor slept without fire in its skies. Mason shielded his eyes as he climbed through the broken tunnel, the last of the dust falling away. Talara followed behind, her armor cracked and dulled by battle, her movements slow but steady. When they reached the surface, both froze. The wasteland they had known, endless dunes of death and ash, was gone. In its place, a faint shimmer rippled across the horizon. The air was warmer, softer. Small tufts of green sprouted where the light of the lumen had scorched the ground. Above, the clouds glowed faint gold like the planet itself remembered the touch of something holy. Mason exhaled shakily. It changed the atmosphere, regenerated it. Talara knelt, running her claws through the sand. Beneath her hand, small roots moved, alive, seeking light. It's bringing life back. They both stood there, silent, letting the wind wash over them. The war had ended here, not with victory or surrender, but with remembrance. By nightfall, they had set up a small camp among the ruins. The stars above seemed closer now, as if the galaxy itself was leaning in to listen. Mason sat beside the dying fire, staring at the comm transmitter he'd rebuilt from scavenged parts. You sure about this? He asked quietly. Talara looked up at the stars, at the thousands of tiny lights that were once battlegrounds. If we stay silent, they'll think this world burned like the others. The lies will start again, he nodded. Then we tell them the truth, together. He pressed the switch. The transmitter hummed, a faint blue glow flickering through the static. "This is Flight Engineer Mason Hale, Terran Relief Corps," he said, his voice steady despite the exhaustion. "Broadcasting from HFY. The war is over. Repeat, the war is over." He glanced at Talara. She stepped closer, her voice rich and calm. "This is Talara of the Karth Dominion. To any who still hear me, you were deceived. The truth lies buried beneath our blood. The Lumen Core was no weapon. It was a memory of what we were before hate rewrote our names." Static hissed across the channel. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then faintly, voices, dozens of them, different frequencies, different dialects. Both human and Karth, and not fighting, just listening. They stayed up late that night, sitting side by side as the stars brightened. Talara tilted her head. "You humans have a saying." "What was it?" "The night is darkest before the dawn." Mason smiled faintly. "Yeah, my mother used to say that." She was right. They fell quiet again, their shared silence not heavy now, but peaceful. A shooting star streaked overhead. Then another. Then a dozen more, blazing trails of gold across the sky. Mason frowned. "Those aren't meteors." The lights grew brighter, drifting downward. Not falling and landing. Talara's eyes widened. Escape pods, dozens of them. From orbit, human and Karth survivors alike drawn by the broadcast. Some staggered onto the sand, confused, weary, afraid. But when they saw Mason and Talara standing together, a human and a Karth side by side, alive, they stopped. No one spoke. No one raised a weapon. Then a small Karth child stepped forward, holding something in trembling hands, a wilted flower growing from the newly fertile sand. She offered it to Mason. He knelt, took it gently, and smiled. "Thank you," he whispered. The silence broke, not with words, but with the sound of breathing, of life, of understanding. As dawn rose, golden light washed across the reborn desert. The air shimmered with heat and renewal. Talara looked east toward the light. "What happens now?" Mason stood beside her, watching the survivors gathering, helping one another, rebuilding from the ruins of mistrust. He smiled softly. "Now, we start remembering." The wind picked up, carrying faint echoes through the sand, the last whisper of the Lumen Core. "Children of shadow and flame, keep the light." Far above HFY, where the dreadnought had once drifted, the remnants of its debris glimmered like constellations, each fragment pulsing faintly with golden light.